So, it would appear that a big question that we sort of see constantly asked when you're looking at the comments and you're going through the videos and seeing what people are saying, because that's something that as a creator you might look at. You might look at what people are asking, what they're talking about, and then you might go into looking whether you can answer those questions. And like I say, one of the biggest questions is, what are TBI doing in the Summer Wells case? What exactly are they actually doing? What is their thought process? Why has there been no arrests in this case? And, have they simply just given up? And it's very easy for us to think that TBI have given up because we haven't seen anything public in terms of movement. We see the social media side of things. We see these stories evolve over time. And I think what happens is we get a little bit caught up in these stories that are online, and we tend to think that that's what happens in the real world, and we can almost be thinking, well,
I saw a video last night, and if TBI saw it, they should really start to arrest people, because they need arresting.
And look, at the end of the day, YouTube and real life are two completely different things. And YouTube doesn't necessarily talk about things that doesn't sell or isn't quite as interesting. But it would appear that one of the things that TBI are believing could be involved in this is actually animals. TBI have not ruled out the chance that perhaps an animal come onto the property and took Summer, or Summer had ventured just a little bit beyond that boundary and fell foul of an animal. Could it have happened? I'm obviously not familiar with what it's like to live in this sort of area, but statistically it's not impossible. There hasn't been a massive amount of, let's say, bear attacks, for argument's sake. There's been about 660 something in the last kind of 15 years or so. But they happen. And what you've got to think is, could if we go down the route of bear, for instance, could someone be attacked and lay and be injured and die? But then you think, would a bear then take that person away for other reasons? There's other animals out there. At the end of the day, if someone ventures that little bit too far, they could fall foul of a different type of animal and then get taken away by another animal. So this theory that in this sort of terrain, if you like, the abundance of wildlife and the change in this wildlife's behaviour as their habitats become smaller and smaller and smaller, their interaction with people becomes worse. There is less tolerance by them. They're more likely to go on the attack than they are to go on the defensive and run away. So, yeah, one of the things that TBI have not ruled out is the fact that poor Summer, could have fallen foul of wildlife, nature. I don't know whether you guys are going to agree with that. Again, we've seen all of this stuff come out on social media, and we're going to have our public enemy number one. But we do have to look at all these possibilities, all of these things. At the end of the day, like we said in another video, there are versions of this story that does see Don and Candace not complicit in the actual going missing of Summer. We can't dispute that her upbringing, her way of life is not going to be the way of life that we would have hoped that Summer would have had. Certainly not. But, I've been in lines of work that has allowed me to venture into family homes. And, even I have seen different families and the way they live in this country. And some of that has been quite shocking and quite upsetting and distressing, because I just think, how can people live in this sort of condition? And without a complete backstory and it's hard to say. It's really hard to say, and I feel that what a lot of people have done on this social media journey within this case is they have forgotten that the lives of people started many years before this case. You know, the lives of Don, Candace, Grandis, Summer, her siblings, all of these people, it didn't just start on the 15th of June 2021. So there's a history there. The way what we saw and the leading up to it, it got there for some reason. It became that way for some reason. Some of you will have seen almost like you know how Summer had declined in her appearance and she looked like she had become ill over several months. And that was quite the same when you look at the Don, Candace and the general family. There are pictures of them, I think it was sort of pre-Rogersville days, and they looked fine. It's just all of a sudden something happened, and all of a sudden they just went complete descent into chaos. From what we can see online, it may not have been that way. That might just be the perception we have. But ultimately, that's where TBI are. TBI, clearly, they just don't know. There's a period of time. That period of time is just a blank void. Nobody's speaking, and I believe there's reasons for that. There will be a fear of being blamed. There will be a fear of numerous things, and every single kind of variation of this story, there is a different risk to a different person. And that is what is making this case so very, very hard. So even though I feel that TBI could have potentially put this to bed a lot earlier if they'd have done certain things right at the beginning, but as we've said before, we've seen in other cases where law enforcement have just been a bit slow out of the gates, and that puts them on the back foot and puts them in a real hard position. But there are things in the winds, there are things that are going to be happening upcoming, which I've been advised about, which I'm going to touch on tomorrow. But for now, that is just an update. Yeah, so TBI, I think, quite possibly, they can't rule out the fact that nature intervened and Summer got gone in that fashion. Let me know down below what you think is the likelihood of that happening. I'll be interested, especially you guys from closer to this area. What do you think? And I'll see you all tomorrow.